Greetings, people of the interwebs. Jake here, and I just saw Kong Skull Island. So, this is kind of your typical, I guess, pre-summer since it's March. Kind of just summer blockbuster movie. Just fun, dumb action. But that's kind of what you expect with a movie about a 100-foot gorilla fighting giant monsters. So, I guess I'll kind of go into some of the things that I liked, some of the things that worked for this movie, and then some of my issues and some of my complaints, I guess nitpicks with the movie, because complaints I think it would be kind of a strong word given the type of movie that this is, which I'll get into here in a moment. So, basically, a little bit of background information. Not that there's really much to kind of go into, but Kong Skull Island takes place during the 70s. It's right after Vietnam, and basically John Goodman's character works for the company Monarch, which, for those of you who saw the 2014 Godzilla film, it's the company or organization that kind of monitor and research and kind of look into these giant monsters and all that stuff like Godzilla and Kong and whatnot. So basically John Goodman, he kind of works his way into getting a military escort to the island that is kind of resurfaced. Maybe not resurfaced is the right word to say. Basically, he convinces a politician to kind of get him on that island since it's been virtually untouched and people avoid it, and it's a legend and all that jazz. And so basically, they get to the island, and pretty early on, once they get to the island, they start dropping the bombs to kind of map out the island. That, of course, is when you see Kong, and he shows up, and he is pissed. So obviously, everyone who's seen the trailers, that's probably within the first 15 minutes of the movie. Just Kong wrecking choppers, throwing trees, and smacking them out of the sky, and all that stuff. So all the scenes with Kong are really entertaining. It's really cool just seeing him effortlessly, smack down all these helicopters. Even though he's getting shot and attacked relentlessly, it doesn't seem to bother him all that much. Because again, he's like 100 feet tall. That's massive. So even with these massive machine guns shooting at him, it's probably a minor annoyance, getting bit by a bug or something. Yeah, it hurts, but you're not it's not fatal or anything like that. So, then of course, the team, the expedition team and the military team, they all kind of get separated on the island, and that's kind of most of the movie is you've got the different groups all trying to kind of get to the north part of the island, so that way they can, because that's kind of their rendezvous zone to get off the island once they, kind of were supposed to map it out and explore. So basically, your two main groups are Samuel L. Jackson, who's kind of a war veteran. He's a little upset that the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam. He feels like it's kind of a disservice after all the men he lost. So he's kind of one of those people where his every being is being in war and kind of just being in the action. So he kind of jumped on the chance to go on this kind of last mission before they all went home, him and his men, just to kind of be out in the field a little bit more. And Samuel L. Jackson is one of the more kind of sort of developed characters, because honestly, pretty much everyone in this movie are cardboard cutout, just archetypal characters. And honestly, none of them really needed to be there. John Goodman's character, Brie Larson, Tom Hiddleston, none of them really needed to be in this movie to make it work. I'm pretty convinced that Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, they're just to look attractive. Which I guess nothing wrong with that. They're handsome, lovely people, but they really offer nothing to the story. And I guess that kind of touches on my issues with the movie is, again, lack of character development with pretty much everyone aside from Samuel L. Jackson's character and John C. Reilly's character, who are the only ones that are kind of given a little bit more development, kind of just enough to kind of make them stand out from the other characters. But on the flip side, and I guess one of the reasons why this is really a nitpick more so than a complaint, because typically with movies when there isn't good character development, it kind of takes me out, but with a movie like Kong Skull Island, you're not going for the movie for the character developments. Even with a phenomenal cast like this movie has, you're not going to see John Goodman run around on an island or Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston. You want to see Kong smashing shit up and fighting giant monsters. So that is where this movie delivers. So yeah, are the characters bland, generic, and kind of cliche? Most definitely. But if you go into this movie with the mindset of, yeah, that who cares? You just want to see Kong fighting monsters, then, that shouldn't really take you out of the movie. So that's kind of how I feel. That seems to be one of the, I guess, complaints that a lot of critics and people are saying with Kong Skull Island is that the, again, human characters are just very expendable, generic cliche, but, again, you could have, they could have developed these characters a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, who cares? If they'd given Brie Larson or Tom Hiddleston a little bit more character development, sure, it might have elevated the movie a little bit more, but ultimately it's kind of like, who cares? I just wanted to see Kong smash some, helicopters and find giant monsters. So, that's where what would normally be a complaint in a typical movie for me is kind of just a nitpick. But, again, Samuel L. Jackson stands out a little bit more, and after, his men are attacked by Kong, he's kind of on a mission. He wants revenge, he wants to take out Kong, and that's the only thing motivating him through this entire mission, is he wants to take King Kong down, at whatever cost. Whereas everyone else are kind of just like, hey, look, yeah, it sucks that your men are dead, but he's a giant gorilla, he's terrifying, and I just want to leave. I want to get off this island. Can we do that, please? So that's where, there's a little bit of tension and clashing between the kind of scientist, civilian people, like Tom Hiddleston, who's sort of a mercenary type guy, and then, Brie Larson is just a photographer. Again, I'm not entirely sure why she's there. Like, yeah, she's like a big shot photographer, basically. And I get that, they obviously want to take pictures of this island, especially for John Goodman's character, who basically wants to just prove that giant monsters are real. But do you need a professional photographer? You could just have anyone take a picture. It's kind of hard to miss a giant 100-foot gorilla and all the other giant monsters on the island. But, again, gotta have those pretty people in the movie. And then, of course, they, later on meet John C. Reilly's character, who, at the very beginning of the movie, it takes place during World War II, during the Pacific Campaign in 1944, he gets shot down along with the Japanese pilot. They were fighting each other. And so that's kind of just a little bit of background information on him. He crash-landed in the 40s, and he's been stuck on the island for, 28 years. So he's not all there mentally, understandably so. If you crash-landed, that already is pretty traumatic, but then you're stuck on an island for 20 plus years with giant monsters, and pretty much anything can and will kill you and eat you. Yeah, I totally understand why he'd be not all there mentally. But he is probably my favorite character, and he's kind of the one that adds the most to this movie. Because, again, he has kind of probably one of the only characters that actually has a story arc from, start to finish. So, all the scenes with John C. Reilly are all really good. Even though some of the humor with his character and just the humor in general throughout the movie doesn't always land. Some of it feels a little forced. But there are some moments that, you kind of get a chuckle. You're like, yeah, okay, nice effort. It's not great, but it's not bad. But, again, as a whole, fun, entertaining movie with Kong fighting the giant monsters and the kind of random soldiers and people getting picked off one by one by the flying bird lizard things, the skull crawlers, which are the main opposing force, so to speak, in this movie, that are kind of fighting Kong. Because essentially on the island, Kong is the apex just creature, not necessarily predator, but he's the apex creature, and he kind of keeps everything in balance. And the skull crawlers are these two-legged lizard things that eat everything, and he keeps them at bay, so that way it kind of keeps the island in check. No particular creature is dominating the island and that whole natural selection, or whatever you want to call it. So that's kind of the whole deal with Kong and, in particular, the skull crawlers. And that's why the people of the island, the inhabitants, kind of revere him as a god. Because, he's a giant gorilla. He keeps them safe. Why not? Makes about as much sense as any other religion, I suppose. So, again, Kong is featured a lot more heavily in this movie. More so than Godzilla in the 2014 Godzilla film, because this is it's indirectly, I guess, connected to the Godzilla film, because basically what they're doing is creating their own cinematic universe, because everyone's got to have those these days. And, Godzilla and Kong are going to fight each other in 2020, which I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, so basically, again, there are some, little kind of references and stuff like that, basically building up to the inevitable clash between Kong and Godzilla, which, really cannot wait for that. So it's one of those things where this is, it doesn't feel forced. They're kind of just doing this movie to I don't know, it just doesn't feel like a stepping stone to get from, point A to point B just to make this shared universe thing work. It is, it's a decent film. Visually, everything is great. All the fight scenes, wherever they filmed that, probably, I think it was parts of Hawaii, maybe Southeast Asia. So all the locations and the set pieces and stuff like that, all that's fantastic. It's just that the story, again, is not that great, but again, with a giant monster movie, I can give that a pass. And again, same with the character development, lack of plot, what have you. I can have a pass on that just because King Kong, that's the only reason we saw this movie. And again, as I said, all the scenes with Kong deliver, not just the action sequences. There are actually some nice sequences where Kong's just walking around the island, getting a bite to eat, just kind of doing what he does when he's not fighting monsters or, fighting off his territory from people shooting him with helicopters. So that's actually kind of interesting that we get to see just brief moments of the day-to-day life of a giant 100-foot gorilla. So the ending, the kind of climactic fight scene between the big skull crawler and Kong, it's a pretty badass fight. And that's the moment where I was kind of most excited. Not to say that the other fight scenes were not exciting, but it was just one of the things where, when you see the kind of giant monster, the biggest monster fighting the other biggest monster in the movie, it's pretty badass. So if you go into this movie expecting a great story and character development, probably shouldn't do that. Probably just go see another movie, go see Logan. Logan has great character development. It's a fantastic movie. Not just for a comic book movie, it's a great movie. But if you just want to watch a movie with a giant gorilla fighting giant monsters and shove popcorn down your face, this is a movie for you. Just get the biggest thing of popcorn and your beverage of choice. Sit back and have a good time, because this movie's probably for you. So yeah. It's overall, it's a fun, entertaining movie. It's not great. I personally like the 2014 Godzilla movie better. I might be slightly biased because I'm a huge Godzilla fan and grew up with those old Godzilla movies. And so, yeah, there's maybe a slight bias for me. But just as a whole, I preferred Godzilla over this movie. Even though we did get more Kong than Godzilla, it's just for me personally, I like Godzilla a little bit more. Even the human characters in Godzilla, they nothing to really brag about. They were kind of forgettable as well for the most part, but there were less characters though, and so I guess that kind of made it a little bit easier because they weren't always going back and forth between this group and that group and all these different characters who you kind of, I guess, are supposed to kind of care about, but you don't, because in Godzilla it's basically just Bryan Cranston, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, and maybe a couple other characters, and that's about it. Whereas in this movie, there's 10 characters that are all running around, and you're kind of supposed to care about some of them, but they're kind of just there to either die or is just there to contribute a little bit of dialogue, and that's about it. So, I could definitely see people liking Kong a little bit more, just because there is more Kong comparatively to Godzilla, and that was apparently one of the complaints most people have with that movie. I don't understand it. I thought it was perfect, with the amount of Godzilla, not necessarily the movie. So yeah, as a whole, I enjoyed it. It's a fun, entertaining movie. So if that's your thing, again, go see this movie. You'll probably enjoy it, but if you want good character development, story, plot, all that stuff, this is not a movie for you. But that about wraps this up. Well, actually, no. There's a post-credit scene. So for those of you who do see the movie, stay till the end, because there's a post-credit scene. As if all these cinematic universe movies, there's got to be a post-credit scene. And this one actually, I really liked. It got me a lot more excited for the upcoming movies in this universe. Because Godzilla 2 comes out in 2019, and then 2020 is the epic clashing of King Kong and the King of Monsters, Godzilla. But they even throw some little hints at some other monsters that might show up, which, again, me being the Godzilla fan and being familiar with those other monsters, that got me pretty pumped. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the future movies. Hopefully they will be better than Kong, just for me personally. Not that, again, I disliked Kong by any means. It just... I don't know. It wasn't as good as Godzilla. And I was kind of hoping it would at least be on par with that movie. But, again, as I said, there might be a slight bias for me just because I like Godzilla more. You all may enjoy Kong, Skull Island, and more, and maybe look forward to future movies with Kong. But I will say this, though. I think what I would have liked better for this movie is, taking place in the 70s, that was fine. I really liked the soundtrack with that kind of era of music, some Creedence, Clearwater Revival, Jimi Hendrix, Black Sabbath. That was some good stuff, just me being the music fan that I am. I think what would have made a better movie is, rather than following all these other kind of generic characters, if they had just focused on John C. Reilly's character, once he crash landed on Skull Island, and how he survived all those 28 years on the island, and how he kind of developed a relationship with the inhabitants, the people who live there, because that wasn't really explained whatsoever. He just kind of shows up as like, yeah, they're my friends, whatever. So that to me, I think would have made a far more entertaining movie, and also because John C. Reilly is the best character in the movie. But, that's just me. That's kind of one of the things that I think would have made a better movie than this. But, again, as a whole, like I said, it's enjoyable, fun, entertaining. Go check it out if it's your thing. And if not, then, I just won't skip it. Wait for it to come out on, DVD and Blu-ray or on a streaming service. But, yeah, so that wraps up this review. Hopefully you all have enjoyed. I think I rambled a little bit too much. But, again, whatever. Hopefully you all enjoyed anyways. Before I wrap this up, as always, you all can like us on Facebook at Pacewell Productions, get news and updates, all things going on with the channel here, and follow us on Twitter at PaceyPalePro. Again, kind of same thing, news, updates, polls for topics we're going to discuss in future podcasts if you all want to help contribute to that. You can follow me at IrishmanJake on Twitter, and you can also check out my new podcast that I started called Shogun's Gateway to Animation Recommendation. That's all things anime. It'll probably be like a bi-weekly podcast that me and my co-host will do. So, yeah. And if you all have any suggestions for anime for us to watch and review, submit those in the comment section or, just hit me up on Twitter. But that wraps up this review. Hopefully you all have enjoyed, and let me know what you all thought of Kong Skull Island. Whether you liked it, didn't like it, or if you're just going to skip and wait for it to come out on Blu-ray and DVD. So, until next time, everyone, cheers.